All right, picture this. It's late 1867. The Paraguayan army has just been, well, shattered after the disaster at Tuyutí. Their leader is completely cornered, the enemy is closing in for the kill, and it really looks like all hope is lost. So what we're going to look at is how a nation, literally on the brink of being wiped out, came up with this desperate, truly ingenious plan to survive against impossible odds.
So you've got the Paraguayan leader, Francisco Solano López, and he is in what looks like an absolutely impossible spot. His army has been bled white, and the Allied forces are getting ready for that final blow. I mean, if you look at it logically, the situation is completely and utterly hopeless.
Okay, so on one side of the battlefield, you've got the Triple Alliance. That's Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. They have a massive, well-supplied army of 50,000 soldiers, and they are ready to go, just chomping at the bit to press the attack and finally put an end to this war.
And what are they up against?
Well, what's left of the Paraguayan army? Just 15,000 men. They're outnumbered, they're exhausted, and they're cut off. So you have to ask, how on earth could they possibly hold out against odds like that?
Yeah, Lopez knew that trying to fight a normal, conventional battle was basically a death sentence. So instead, he came up with this incredible three-pronged strategy, combining brute force, secret logistics, and some serious psychological warfare to turn Paraguay into a fortress that just refused to fall.
Okay, so part one of the plan. Lopez decides to go all in on defense. He basically says, forget our long, weak lines. We're pulling everything back and consolidating all of our remaining strength into one single, virtually impenetrable defensive complex. And the anchor of this whole thing? The fortress of Humaitá. He puts General Bruguez in charge, and the work starts immediately. First, they start by digging this massive new trench line. Then he pulls 150 cannons from the old, obsolete defenses and moves every single piece of heavy artillery to create what was essentially a kill zone of brutally concentrated firepower. Now, this is where things get really, really clever. It wasn't just a straight wall. No, he built these triangular redoubts, and the shape, that angle, was everything. It meant they could fire across the front of the main trench, creating these deadly overlapping fields of fire that left absolutely no safe way for an attacking army to approach. And what about the river? Well, to stop the powerful Brazilian navy, he ordered something that was just an incredible feat of engineering. We're talking a barrier of 3 massive, intertwined chains stretched almost 700 yards across the water, held up by pontoons and canoes. The thickest chain had links that were 7.5 inches thick, a literal wall of iron. But, a fortress is just a fancy tomb if you can't get food and ammo in. Which brings us to Lopez's second and maybe most brilliant solution: a secret lifeline, a supply route that the Allies had no idea even existed. So this whole thing really hinged on a two-part plan. Think of it like this. Humaita was the big armored shield facing the enemy, the thing everyone could see. But the wild, dense Chaco region to the west, that was the secret umbilical cord quietly feeding the army and keeping that shield alive, while the main river was completely blockaded. And the guy in charge of this whole secret operation was Colonel Caballero. Hiding under the dense forest canopy, steamships like the Taquari and Aguirre were just slipping right past the Allied fleet, totally undetected. This secret path worked so well, it even became an evacuation route for civilians who could walk 250 miles through it to get to safety in the capital.
Okay, but Lopez's plan wasn't just about big walls and secret supply lines. This is where he got really creative. He knew he couldn't win with just muscle, so he started a war of psychology, of deception, of just constant nagging harassment.
Get this, he developed this amazingly sophisticated system to aim his big guns. Here's how it worked. An officer standing by the cannon would hold up a leather sheet with a letter, like let's say C for the Animal Commander Caxias' headquarters. Miles away, observers at a place called Paso Pucú would see that letter, aim their telescopes at that exact target, and then give Lopez real-time feedback on where every single shell landed. Incredible. And talk about a master of mind games, this quote here really says it all. Every single time an Allied shell smacked into his own HQ, a crew was there instantly to patch the hole and whitewash it. The whole point was to create this illusion of invincibility, to make the Allies think their bombardment was having zero effect. His troops were also masters of constant low-level guerrilla tactics. They even took a kid's hunting tool, this special 2-stringed bow, and used it to silently fling these hardened clay pellets called bodokes at Brazilian sentries in the middle of the night. It was a simple, quiet, and totally unnerving way to keep the enemy on edge 24/7.
And for months, this whole system actually worked. The fortress held, the secret supplies kept flowing, and the mind games were seriously frustrating the Allies. But then, in early 1868, just when it seemed like Lopez had stabilized everything, the entire game changed almost overnight.
So what happened? Well, a series of political crises just completely rocked the Allied command structure. As you can see here, first the Argentine vice president dies, which forces their top general, Mitre, to head home. Then the Uruguayan general gets assassinated. All of a sudden, the entire Allied leadership is just gone.
And into this power vacuum steps a new and way more aggressive commander, Brazil's Marquis of Caxias. And just look at this chart, it tells you everything you need to know. Under the old general, Mitre, there were 13,000 Brazilian soldiers listed as being sick in hospitals. The moment Caxias takes over, that number just magically plummets to 2,500. What does that mean? It means he just freed up over 10,000 fresh troops for an immediate attack. So here's the bottom line. Lopez had built this absolutely brilliant defense, right? But it was designed to fight a very specific kind of enemy, one that was cautious and politically divided. Now all of a sudden, he was facing a unified, re-energized army under a single, ruthless commander who was determined to make his name by crushing him. And that leaves us with the big final question. Could his amazing fortress of brawn and brains actually withstand the hurricane that was about to hit?